Welcome to the Infinity Bros podcast, the only podcast that is perfectly balanced as all things should be. My name is Isaac Edlin, and I am your host tonight. And with me, I have a few Infinity Bros. The first one I'm going to announce is very first time being announced as a co-host without being the main host of the Infinity Bros podcast. It is Infinity Bro Max Mosier. How you doing, Max?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on, Isaac. It's a real treat and honor. Hi, Mom.
How does it feel to not be doing what I'm doing right now? Not be the main co-host of the episode that you're on?
It feels like letting your kid make their own plate of food. You're gonna have to step in and do something eventually. You still got to clean up the dishes afterwards. There will be a mess and a pile to clean up, and other people are here too that we got to track. So, I'll have to still edit this, and I'm sure I'll have to step in and mispronounce a name eventually for you.
Really, really wish that analogy didn't work so well, but it's probably not that far off, honestly. So,
yeah, the young kid analogy works for all three of us. So that's why I did it.
That's true. It does. And our second guest, and also Infinity Bro. It's Jarret Curtis.
I've not been gone that long.
Well, that's what we said last time on episode 143.
Arguably, okay, hold on. Podcast. Buckle up, baby boys, because I have a better analogy for you.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
A little peek behind the curtains. Max has a little bit of the bubbly in him.
I do.
So what? So the accurate description is. Max is that slightly inebriated, like just barely a tipsy girl. Isaac is the designated driver.
Gosh.
But no, Max is the kind who's going to be like, no, silly, that was our turn. Give me the wheel. That's what's going on here. Yeah.
Don't drink and drive, kids. Don't listen to Jarret. That's ridiculous. Can't believe you'd come on this podcast and
that's
say
why
that.
Isaac's your DD. He's
not editing that out either, Jarret. You're gonna have to live with that.
Just incredible. History is being made here on the Infinity Bros podcast. in more ways than one. Oh man. Guys, we've got a lot to talk about tonight. And we've already been talking for about 40 minutes. If you guys want to check out the Patreon exclusive portion of this podcast.
I think it was our best Patreon ever.
It might be. It is wild.
I'm going to be bold. And say it was our best one.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have a link in the show notes for that, so you can go check that out. We talk about a lot of stuff that you wouldn't normally hear on the Infinity Bros podcast. And like we said, probably one of the wildest Patreon exclusive portions of the podcast. And Mark is not here. Like usually when it's wild, it's because of Mark. So
thank you, Lord.
But the views expressed by individual Infinity Bros do not represent the brand. Speaking specifically on behalf of Mark and Max, everything Isaac and I say is wholesome, but like I said, Max has a little bit of that.
Jarret and Isaac, the wholesome portion of the Infinity Bros podcast. You heard it here first.
The golden retrievers of the podcast.
I love that. But we're going to be talking a lot of nerd news today on the Infinity Bros podcast. We had, I'm trying to remember the name of it, the CCXP 2022 in, I believe it's in Sao Paulo. Is that how you say that? In Brazil?
Yeah.
Sao Paulo. Huge Comic-Con convention, and Disney unveiled a bunch of announcements that we're going to be talking about today. And we're not going to be doing it alone with my good friends Max and Jarret. So, guys, we're just going to dive right into some nerd news.
Hey, Zane, I was looking into getting into this Gunpla thing. There's one called the Unicorn Banshee. What the heck is that all about? Actually, Jarret, what you're thinking of is RX-0 Unicorn Gundam 2 Banshee, which is from the Mobile Suit Gundam. Actually, you know what? It's time for nerd news.
So I think probably the biggest thing that came out of this, for us anyways, for sure, we're just going to dive right into it, is the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 trailer. They dropped that along with a poster. It is dropping May 5th, 2023, which is wild to think about. Their Ant-Man Quantumania is coming up soon. Guardians of the Galaxy is only like 6 months away, guys. It's pretty crazy to think about. But yeah, they dropped the trailer, which gave us some new things. They gave us a new look at Adam Warlock in the MCU, played by Will Poulter, and then another look at the High Evolutionary, played by Chukwudi Iwuji. Is that how you say that? Max?
I'm so thrilled that
Any
you're
input on
hosting
that?
today.
Yeah.
This is so great. This is
Any
so
input on
awesome.
that? How I'd pronounce that, Max?
Hey, Max, can you pronounce that words for us, please?
Yeah, no, I think you're doing great. Keep it up.
But they've done a few things where he appeared as the High Evolutionary. Like I think he went to San Diego Comic-Con and like walked around in a High Evolutionary costume. But this is the first time we've seen him on screen. So some big reveals on Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Before we get to talking about that trailer, Max, I know you wanted to give a little bit of perspective on the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, which
Are we
we
gonna
reviewed
rate it?
on.
Are we gonna rate these things?
Sure, yeah, we'll be rating them.
Yeah. Do you plan on putting the bumper in? I'm not trying to step on your toes as a
No,
host,
no,
but
no,
like,
no, not yet. I haven't
okay,
gotten that
all
far
right,
yet,
okay.
Max.
You're
Okay,
leading the ship.
just hold your horses.
The
Hold
SS
your horses.
Isaac.
We'll
Here
get
we
there.
go.
We'll get there. But I wanted to give Max a little bit.
He
Of an
came to drink the
opportunity.
bub and bust some balls, and he's all out of bubbly.
Oh gosh,
That's all he's here for today.
Stop making people think I'm an alcoholic. Stop this.
This dude had like a sip, and I'm like, guys, he smashed. Call the doctor.
He cannot function. He couldn't walk in a straight line if we tried. It wouldn't be possible. Holiday special. Sorry, Isaac, for cutting you off.
So episode 143 of the Infinity Rose podcast, we did a full spoiler review of the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special. Go there for the premiere elite reviews, and now we're going to hear Max's as well.
Yeah, it's good to be in the AAA of reviews for this one. I think, I mean, I won't give my rating. I'll give it later, but I'll say this. What I said pre-show in the Patreon that I'll say here is, I think this was an intentional choice that James Gunn clearly has had mapped out for what this third chapter / and/or volume is. The holiday special was so lighthearted. To then see this jarring trailer that we'll talk about and review here in a moment, that was the most, in my opinion, emotional trailer since Infinity War and Endgame, was fascinating. And to see, we'll talk about shots in it in a bit. I won't spoil any shots in case anybody doesn't want. I think that was an intentional choice by James Gunn. It's kind of reinforced this thought that like he's had an idea from the get-go of what he wanted to do in all the chapters for me. And I know the holiday special didn't like go exactly how he initially wrote it because Kevin Bacon came on late, but that was my observation. My observation was this is the last rest stop before you head towards the inevitable doom for this group. Something bad is happening to this group. And that's what that trailer told me.
Max. I'm going to stop you right there. For those of you who have never listened to the Infinity Bros podcast, this is how we rate things on the Infinity Bros podcast.
Here on the Infinity Bros podcast, everything is ranked from a 0 to 6 point scale. 0 meaning horrible, and 6 meaning absolutely excellent. If all of the Infinity Bros rank something a 6, it gets an infinity step.
So Max, what would you rate the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special?
The holiday special, I would give a 5 out of 6.
5 out of 6.
Sure.
So it was a fun little romp before potential doom and gloom.
Yeah, whatever you said, I echo, because when I listened to it last week, I was like, oh, I completely agree with what Isaac said.
Yeah. Jarret and Robbie were very, very positive, very optimistic, gave it 6 out of 6, which I think it was great. I think it was awesome.
Do you think you're going to go back and rewatch this every year in Christmas?
Yes.
Like, do you look at this as one of those kind of repeatable Elf Christmas vacation movies?
Here's the thing. It's 44 minutes long. So yes, I think it's a very rewatchable movie or special. If it were an hour and a half, maybe I wouldn't feel that way. You know, like I don't know. Like it's easy to watch and it's fun.
You say that.
It's fun because it's one of those specials that you could throw on in the background and not really have to pay attention to me. So I think it's a fun.
I don't know if I'm going to watch it again next year for Christmas, but I think if it was an hour and a half, that would have changed it for me.
You think it would have made it better if it was an hour?
Oh
and a half?
yeah, I think an hour and a half would have been great for this one.
An hour and a
really
half
do.
of Drax and Mantis yelling at each other.
No, so
Would
here's
make
what
it
he needs.
better?
Let me translate because Max is on the bub. Um, he needs an he needs an extra 45 minutes of like thick.
I'm gonna quit.
Swole Groot. Just
Swole
45
Groot.
minutes of Swole
Swole
Groot.
Groot was great.
Just
Swole
flexing
Groot
in the
was great.
background. Yeah.
Robbie was just ticked that Swole Groot.
He was not
there because
having it for sure.
He was so jealous of Swole
Yeah,
Groot.
I know. Robbie, Groot has any growth as a character, and Robbie goes ballistic because only DC characters can have growth. I think that one thing I would say is in the rebuttal of like an hour and a half movie, I would have loved to see the Guardians of the Galaxy special explore things like how did Nebula get Bucky's arm? I think that would have been a fun 10 minutes.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, that would.
I think there was more to dive into with Peter and Yondu's
Yondu.
relationship. I think they could have given me another full scene of that. I think there were scenes that could have been put on this. I think Werewolf by Night, I don't know what the runtime comparisons are, but Werewolf by Night accomplished a lot of storytelling in a very short time. Whereas this kind of felt like one story that was fun and goofy with a song at the beginning. I actually disagreed with Robbie's take on the song at the beginning. That felt like a waste of time to me. I was like, let's get to this. The music stuff is like, okay, whatever, we get it. We're mocking Christmas and humanity. And that's what drops my rating to a 5 out of 6, is I'm just not a musical guy. It's just not my thing. So I would have just liked a little bit more. I think I wanted 10 more minutes.
Yeah, so if you guys want a full analysis of the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, go back to episode 143 of the Infinity Bros podcast. You can check it out. From here on out, though, we're going to be hearing some things from the trailers and things from the CCXP 2022 that potentially could be spoilers. So we're going to put our spoiler bumper right here.
This is
Prepare yourself.
an Infinity Bros
Prepare yourself.
spoiler warning.
So if you don't want to listen to what potentially could happen in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, or in Mandalorian Season 3, or in Indiana Jones, the 5th movie that I'm forgetting the name of right now, Dial of Destiny, maybe skip this episode or put it on pause. Go check out what all that stuff is all about, or just get to the good stuff of the Infinity Bros podcast. But anyways, yeah, we're gonna be talking about a lot of that stuff. So here is your spoiler warning. Well, guys, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Let's dive right into it. They gave us a trailer. We got a look at High Evolutionary and at Adam Warlock. First thoughts, Jarrett, what do you think of the third one?
I love this. I think I want to talk specifically about the characters too, because they're kind of throwing a lot at the wall. And I think Phase 4 has suffered in a lot of ways. And I think they need to start really bringing in the big pictures and sort of bringing it together in a way that makes sense, because right now it just feels like so many loose and disjointed stories that unless we have a glue that binds it together, it's going to continue to sour in people's mouths. So Adam Warlock, I talked about it. Like, I thought the casting was kind of buck wild, and then once those first pictures came out, I was like, okay, I can see it. And this sort of drives that home for me. I think he looks great in the trailer as well. Chikuri Uji looks fantastic as High Evolutionary. I hope they do a lot with him and Wanda, because there's a storyline that runs through there that's involved in the comics, and I think it'd be a good fit to sort of make her piece of the pie fit in with the rest of us. Because right now,
I think that's why they're doing it too, Jared,
yeah,
by the way.
her whole thing with Doctor Strange is obviously like important to the sake of the multiverse, but we need to bridge that gaps between this and all these other like balls that are in play. And I think a way to bridge that would be through the High Evolutionary.
Jared, I also just, sorry to break your thought, but just an addition to that, it just feels like every choice is built around her in the Marvel Cinematic Universe right now. It just feels like a lot of the stuff is built around her, even with WandaVision being the first Phase 4, true Phase 4 thing. I echo that. I think a lot of these villains they just have unique ties to her.
Yeah, and as we continue to like explore what the multiverse looks like through we'll talk about Quantumania later. There needs to be that driving force, like the gravity that pulls this all together. And like you said, having it be Wanda and WandaVision and all this other stuff involved in it, I think is an interesting way to take this. So yeah, commercial looks great. I'm excited to see that we're bringing in Layla and sort of digging into Rocket's backstory in particular. That's one that, like, don't read those comics. It's a rough read. It makes no sense. But Layla as a character is really cool, and Rocket's backstory, I think it plays a lot into this, and so I'm excited to see where they explore with that. But yeah, like for James Gunn's like swan song of the MCU, this looks way different than any James Gunn like feature we've seen so far, and I'm excited to see what we do with it.
Yep. And I mean, you kind of ended it with there, but like, and Max mentioned it earlier, the tone of this trailer is much different than we've seen in the previous versions of Guardians of the Galaxy. So we get some funny jokes and like a couple funny parts in the very beginning, but the rest of this trailer is very serious. Where do you think they're going with this tone, Max?
Yeah, I mean, there's 4 visceral shots of Drax, Rocket, Mantis, and Peter. And the Peter shot is kind of the one that's really, really jarring when you watch this, where they are visibly scared and or depressed. The Rocket one appears to be a flashback, and Jared obviously talked about his significant other. Jared, you're stealing my talking points. Those are literally the 2 things I was going to talk about, was the High Evolutionary and that. So good job. I felt really nerdy and confident coming into this. I was like, oh, I'm gonna have some really good detailed perspective, and Jared, of course, ruins it. I
Actually,
yeah, you totally did. I'm really, really impressed with this trailer, but also the Adam Warlock stuff doesn't really make much sense with what I'm seeing right now with the trailer. I think that's my only kind of gripe with this stuff. Is I'm like, okay, Adam Warlock is clearly a long-term decision. However, James Gunn wanted him in this because James Gunn built the whole second movie around his race. So my question is what is his role in this? Is it bigger than we thought? Is it a future thing? Is James Gunn really trying to leave his stamp forever here? How does James Gunn going to DC affect all this? Because I think James Gunn, before this DC stuff, was going to be part of the bigger process down the line. I have no proof on that, but I have a difficult time with them getting rid of him, bringing him back for that one movie. I think he was going to do more. Bob Iger strikes me as a guy who makes those kinds of things happen. But
can
yeah,
I
I think the tone of go ahead.
can I talk about Adam Warlock for a minute? Because it feels so out of place with like the direction that we're headed with everything.
And it feels late. It feels too late to have him.
He's a big part of like all the Infinity stuff, and that's like so. I mean, we're just into Phase 4, but like it already feels way in the rearview mirror that I'm like, why? I'm excited for the casting. I'm excited to see what they do with him, but like, do we need Adam Warlock now? I don't know.
Mm. That was exactly my thoughts, honestly, because like, so basically they show that very short glimpse of Adam Warlock as Will Poulter as our Adam Warlock, and he looks like he's got some kind of like stone or something right there, which for comics people already know that I mean, he's a huge part of the Infinity War, Infinity Gauntlet storyline, and he basically ends up holding the Soul Stone and gets trapped in there, blah blah blah, all that comic
Yeah,
stuff. But like, that's like a huge part of who he is as a character in the comics. So you guys are totally nailing it. Like, this seems like so late. Why are we retreading this Infinity phase, basically the Infinity Saga, moving forward in the MCU? Like, where are we going with Adam Warlock?
They'll explain it accordingly. I don't think it's going to have anything to do with Infinity Stones, because the multiverse has made Infinity Stones obsolete, right? So like they've
Right.
made that judgment call. They've made that decision in Loki that they're not going to do it. You're not bringing on a guy of Poulter's prestige without a plan long term. You're not making him drastically change his entire lifestyle for one role for one movie. You're asking him to do that for a long term. And so yes, Jared, I agree with you. It's too late. But my rebuttal, it's kind of, I live in both worlds. I think he has a role to play. where I could see this all being interesting is, what if the Infinity Stones weren't obsolete in a specific world, or in one world, if it was to become a battle world, then could he be the unifier of those stones? And that's obviously thinking way down the line, but him his presence is the question mark in this movie. It's the one thing that could ruin this movie, in my opinion. Everything else, this movie is going to be a banger. Like, this movie is so set up for success, it's not even fair. This is the most easy layup of all the movies in phase 5 and phase 4. This bad boy's going to blow it out of the water.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, we've been talking about it on social media, in our Discord. Who is going to die in this? Because like, somebody's dying, right? Like one of the Guardians is going to die. Who do you guys think it is?
I don't want them to, but I think it's got to be Rocket. And part of me thinks that they even kill off Quill in this. Like, I think it's got to be not just one. I think there's going to be 2, maybe 3 deaths.
Right.
And I think it's going to be like really heavy. Because again, this is James Gunn's swan song. And James Gunn is not afraid to kill off characters, if you watched anything he's ever directed. And so I think...
Right.
I think Rocket goes, just based off of the little evidence that we have, and like, we're going to his origin story. And then I think it's going to be Peter as well. I think Peter dies in this.
Wow, you're going 2. You're going...
No way they kill Peter. I'd push back on that. I'd be willing to make a small wager on that. I just, the reason I don't think that Peter Quill goes is that there's just no way that they're letting him walk for long-term movies, Jarret. I just, if they're gonna have another Guardians of the Galaxy team, him and Mantis feel like the layup of the next team. It's Drax. Batista wants out. Batista wants nothing to do with this anymore. You don't want to put yourself in a situation in a multiverse setting where he could come back as another character, and then he's not there and people are like, where's Drax? You kill him off. End of discussion. I do think Rocket dies. I think Gamora could die.
I mean, she kind of already did, but
I'm saying, like, do it again. Like, get her back in and do it again, because that's Peter's legacy. Peter's legacy is he lose everything he loves.
I think Gamora dying once kind of loosens the stakes of it, where it's not as like,
Sure.
like, this isn't our
Sure.
Gamora. We don't have that. I'll explain why I think Peter dies. One is like, this is the end of the galaxy, Guardians of the Galaxy as we know it, right? And so there has to be sort of a new team, and Guardians has always been Peter's story, right? Peter is the character. And if you look at the holiday special, even though like the focal point is like it's his holiday and he's the one getting the gift, it is like he's not in it as much as Drax and Mantis. And the little bits that he is in there is just like the MacGuffin to have this whole holiday season. So I think they're preparing us for like, what might Guardians look like after Peter Quill is gone. And that, like, I think they kill him off.
I just don't see it. I don't see it. I think he has to be part of that new team. I get behind what you're saying with Gamora, but I think he's got to be on that new team. I just don't.
Here's what I say. I think Rocket seems like the likeliest choice because we're going into his backstory. We already are pretty emotionally attached to Rocket, and if we're getting into his backstory, like, that's going to make the most emotional impact in this movie. That's where I'm pushing back on Drax, Max. I don't think Drax, if he dies, I don't think he makes that big of an emotional impact on us as viewers, for sure.
Firmly disagree.
I don't feel like Drax is the guy that's gonna make everybody cry during the movie theater. Like, I just don't think that's gonna be it. Rocket's gonna be that guy.
I think the general audience loves Drax. I really do feel that way. I think Rocket's impact is the biggest one. You're absolutely right. I think Rocket is a second act death. Or end of the second act death.
Do you think Drax is going to die like right away?
And a third act revenge fight on, oh my goodness, the High Evolutionary. That's where I see the Drax death occurring, and that's where I see Gamora and or Peter working with Mantis to rebuild this team. You have to leave the team in shatters, in shambles. Like, you have to leave this team battered and bruised to rebuild it. You've got to do that. So like people got to die or go away.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is this. Here's the other part. Peter Quill and Gamora could go off and live together and be done. That's the other thing I could see.
True.
I could see them falling in love and moving on, and then it's Mantis. Mantis is in charge.
Mantis is the one that rebuilds the team. Yeah.
What's James Gunn's brother's character? The one that has
Sean Gunn. Yeah.
what's Yondu's his Yondu's gift?
Krager, something like that.
Yeah, whatever his name is, Kraglin.
Yeah. There you go.
I could see him and Mantis being in charge, and then what you do is in this Secret Wars movie, you bring him and Nebula back, or him and Gamora back.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I realistically see in this circumstance. I just don't see how they can kill Peter. I just do not see how they can do it.
I think you've got some good points. I would not be surprised if Drax died, but he's not going to be the focal point. I think that would be Rocket for sure. I think Rocket would be the emotional third act
of this movie, no question.
Yeah, I think he would be the emotional third act death. Drax would be like oh no, oh we got to rally our team together and like finish this guy off, and then Rocket dies at the end, and that's when it's like, oh crap, end of the movie. I don't know, going into bigger things with the High Evolutionary potentially leading into Secret Wars, all the stuff that we've been talking about for ages on the Infinity Bros. Maybe one of them is a Skrull. I don't know. Skrull watch. Like who's a Skrull?
Probably not.
No, I don't think it would.
Don't be ridiculous, Isaac. You need to stop doing that. That's ridiculous.
How dare I?
I will say this too. Like, if they don't kill Rocket, it's still gonna hurt. I think this backstory is gonna hurt. I think this backstory is gonna hurt a lot.
Absolutely.
And they might not kill him, but they might really hurt us by watching him suffer and be tortured.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But make no mistake, somebody is dying.
Yeah, definitely.
So I hope James Gunn's got the guts to kill multiple. I hope it's not just one. I really do.
That would be wild, and I
want him to kill multiple.
Either.
I really do.
I think Drax and Rocket are good choices. I think Peter would be a bold choice. I could see it happening, but I think he's lower on the odds list of who would be.
I think Chris Pratt wants this MCU thing too much.
Yeah,
I think he likes his role. I think he does not want to leave. They're all obviously very committed to James Gunn, but I think Chris Pratt wants to be in these Avengers movies.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, let us know what you guys think of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 trailer. Next thing that we're going to talk about is Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. So they didn't reveal. We already got a trailer a while back, which now that I'm thinking about it, I don't remember. Maybe Max, you and Mark reviewed it on the podcast. I don't remember off the top of my head, but that was a while ago. What they revealed at CCXP was a few more extra footage. They didn't really call it a trailer. But basically, this is not released on social media. This is just something that was exclusive to the convention. But basically, they described the scene as opening with Scott living his life as a celebrity in the aftermath of his heroic actions in Avengers Endgame. Meanwhile, his relationship continues to thrive with Hope, who is living as a philanthropist and has won awards for using PIM particles to solve housing and food problems. The clip ends with the shrinking Avenger reading a clip from his book at a library before receiving a call from the San Francisco Penitentiary, likely relating to his daughter Cassie's arrest that was teased in the trailer. So, I mean, they got a little snippet of what's going on. Basically, Scott's living his life being famous. We've saw snippets of that in the MCU with, most prominently, I think, Miss Marvel says something about his podcast that he has. So, he's living this, kind of famous life, and turns out he's got problems like everybody else. So, got a few things to pick apart here. Jarret, I know you mentioned you wanted to talk about casting for this movie.
Yeah, so one of the guys, I was looking through the casting real quick, and there's like a actor that's in the background of a lot of stuff. His name's Tony McCarthy. He's in Andor. He's in a bunch of stuff, just as like a random guy in the background. But what I noticed is he's in a bunch of like Marvel stuff in like adjacent to a important thing. So like he plays police officers in Miss Marvel. He plays like just random guys on the street. And then he's credited in this for Humanoid. And I'm like, well, that's kind of odd because that seems a little bigger than like just an extra, in the background somewhere. And I'm like, man, this would be cool if throughout this whole thing, like maybe he's a scroll or maybe he's seated throughout this. I don't know if this is anything because he does like dude's in everything Disney produces. But I just thought it was interesting that he's getting
we
like a
have
bigger
scroll watch. How about that?
Scroll watch. Ding ding ding. There it is.
Scroll watch 2022, Jarrett.
Put it on
Go
the
for
TikTok. Let the internet nerds hate me. But no, I thought this was super crazy that like they give him a bigger role like this and he's hidden in the background of like so many Marvel properties.
Good for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Could be nothing. It could just be a promotion or whatever, but
Don't think it's anything, but good
yeah,
for him.
Yeah. Love that
Yeah,
for him.
yeah, could be something.
I'm
You never
zigging
know.
while everyone else is zagging. Here we go.
The other half of this casting that I need to talk about. 3 things, okay? First, we got Tony McCarthy. We talked about it. Second, Jonathan Majors is a he is yoked, man.
Cut.
And like,
man, he is jacked right now.
He's our. I mean, like, obviously, we watched. What was the what's the H.P. Lovecraft one? Help me out here. Lovecraft Country.
Lovecraft Country, yeah.
Phenomenal actor in that, and he was obviously cut for that. But like every time I see him, because I think he's in Creed as well, right? The new Creed.
Dude, he looks unreal in this new Creed.
Just why? And so I'm like,
he looks unbelievable in Creed.
Nobody stands a chance. Like nobody stands a chance against him.
Creed 3 is going to be great.
Oh my gosh, guy is like. He's a renaissance man and he's killing it right now.
I will say this too, Jarrett. I think they really say what you want about Phase 4, but the Loki season finale is still one of the greatest moments in the MCU history. And a majority of that percentage of reasoning is because of Jonathan Majors.
Yeah.
He already appears to be the perfect main stake villain of this whole thing. And this trailer continues to showcase that. And I'm looking forward to watching him portray, which this has been already said by him and people close to him, that he's going to be portraying multiple versions of Kang. I cannot wait for that. This is a great casting, Jerry. You're absolutely right.
Anyone who can steal the spotlight from Tom Hiddleston in his own freaking TV series is a force to be reckoned with. So, like, fantastic casting there. The last thing I want to talk about is Cassie. Cassie Lang is like one of my all-time favorite heroes. My corgi is named after her because she's so small. And I think it's cool to see like the legacy that they're building here. I've been saying this for, I don't know, Max, how many years now? 4 or 5 years, that we're getting something like the Champions or Young Avengers. And I like every single piece of evidence that we get points us in that direction. And I think this is where we finally see her get her powers, where she finally takes off as a hero. And like all the pieces are there. I think this is like how you kick off Phase 5. I think we get a surprise. Like I'm gonna call my shot here. I think one of the 2 like after credit scenes is gonna be some form of either Champions or Young Avengers, like dealing with something. Or
it's
like
Young Avengers, Jarrett. It's Young Avengers. And here's the thing. I personally get frustrated hearing the argument that Phase 4 is a waste of time for people.
Yeah.
Because this is you have to start this whole process over, and it required significant legwork. And yes, I can concede that some characters just did not work, or the movies did not work. For me, that was WandaVision and Doctor Strange. But for other people, it was She-Hulk and it was these other properties. What you cannot attack, though, the argument of like there's no connecting points, you're nailing it. There's been connecting points. Every single one of these shows has a Young Avenger in it. They all do. Every one of them. Loki. I mean, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I mean, they all have somebody that could be part of this collective team, whether that's in a Secret Wars setting or in a TV show setting. And I don't know what's going to happen with the Bob Iger thing and Disney changing. And there's rumors that they're going to go for quality over quantity now. But I'm with you, Jarret. I think they've been much more strategic than they've given. People are just upset because it's not what they wanted.
Yeah.
And they took a lot of risks with this phase. You know, I think a lot of people after Endgame were like, "Oh, superheroes, like it's getting so tired and superhero fatigue, blah 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 blah." Marvel tried to counteract that by doing some interesting different things. Did a lot of them not work? Probably, but I think they did a good job of experimenting with some of these shows and doing some different things. I mean, notably like Werewolf by Night, which was fantastic, and we all absolutely love. Like they're trying some.
Isaac, you're telling me that Megan Thee Stallion twerking at the end of a TV series wasn't part of Kevin Feige's original plan? That's off the beaten path from
Maybe that's the point that Kevin Feige, like Infinity Saga was all leading up to Megan Thee Stallion twerking in She-Hulk. Like maybe that was it.
I freaking love She-Hulk, by the way.
I'm a She-Hulk guy. If this is your first time listening to us, I'm a pro She-Hulk guy. I have had to defend this show more than anything else in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That was a cultural moment. Megan Thee Stallion twerking with her. That was a cultural moment.
Dude, that's all anybody was talking about for a week after that episode.
If you loved it, you hated it. It was a cultural moment.
Yeah, it was.
Suck You're it. Right. Sorry.
It was art. It was art in its purest form.
It was art. It was cultural art.
Love that.
That's what it was. Was it stupid? Yes, it was. It was very stupid.
Gosh, did you ever think, Max, that you would be defending Megan Thee Stallion twerking
not a chance
on the Infinity Bros podcast?
No. And
the inception of this podcast, what, 3 years ago or whatever it was.
Here we are.
What a beaten path. Also, too, in the Ant-Man conversation, too, just to add on to what Jarret said, is this. Mark and I have talked a couple times on this show about the opportunity here to kill Scott Lang and really, really make Kang set apart. I mean, I'm pretty close to locking in that I think he's dead in this. It's a similar argument to the Peter Quill argument of like, how can you get rid of this guy? But Kang is yet to have the Loki moment was jarring and cool, but he needs his Thanos moment. He desperately needs his Thanos moment.
Can I touch on this?
I think killing Scott would be a great opportunity. Go ahead.
So I think we kill. I think you're absolutely right. I think we kill Scott off. I think there's a time where you have Stature, you have, Cassie do her thing, you have Wasp still doing her
thing.
Hank Pym. I honestly think, like, I don't know if we need another Disney Plus TV show with like the weirdest plot, but maybe you get what was the irredeemable Ant-Man, Eric O'Grady or whatever. I don't know if we get that. Maybe he's a side character in Thunderbolts or something.
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
But I think Ant-Man, you do that and then find a way later on to give him like the goofiest, dumbest like version of On Your Left. Like whatever the stupidest moment of that is where he comes back. But it's like, it's Paul Rudd. So it's not like heartfelt and emotional. It's just like, hey, I'm Paul Rudd.
Oh, I think it would be heartfelt and emotional. He's such a cornerstone of this universe at this point. I mean, sure. He's such a reason that Endgame happened, right? I mean, they built that story around his disappearance and around his where was he in Infinity War. I think it actually could be more emotional than you're giving it credit for, Jarret.
Maybe emotional isn't the right word. Maybe serious is the word.
Yeah, serious I think is fair. It would the tone would not be Sam Wilson, Anthony Mackie on your left through an intercom. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I just think I think there's a chance we could see it, and I know that's a big popular rumor right now, and it's a bold swing, but man, Kang is gonna save this, guys. Kang is gonna save all of this. This rhetoric of the MCU. Jonathan Majors is gonna save the MCU. He is going to be the Robert Downey Jr. of this whole thing. We are watching one of the greatest actors of this generation start his ascent, and he's chosen the Marvel Cinematic Universe to do it. And he's got these major movies and TV shows coming out. We've talked about Lovecraft Country. We talked about Creed. He is going to be, there's an opportunity here for him to go, Kang's scarier than Thanos. Thanos is in the pantheon with Darth Vader.
Yeah. Yeah. He's like
It's an amazing
almost
opportunity.
Gen Z's Darth Vader up to this point, probably, right?
Yeah, I think so. I'm just making a point. I think Kang has an opportunity to save all this, to make the people that are like She-Hulk is jarring. She shouldn't be here. Miss Marvel is awful. How dare they make her a mutant? All these arguments we've heard of, how dare Captain America care so much about the racial dissension in the country? These arguments can become null and void if Kang is absolutely imposing, and this team has to unite every single hero ever assembled, ever made in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, ever made in Marvel movies before that. That's where they're going with it. That's where this is going. And he has to be scarier than Thanos to take on every single hero ever. He's got to be scarier than Thanos. And I think Jonathan Majors can do it.
And what better way to introduce the seriousness of Kang than to kill Scott Lang in this movie?
They're getting rid of the funny characters.
Yeah. That would
if
be
Rocket and Ant-Man are gone, they're getting rid of the funny
characters.
characters.
That. Yeah. Just I think it's a good possibility, because you're absolutely right. I mean, like, Kang is going to be as imposing as Thanos. Like, this killing Scott Lang could be his Thanos killing Loki moment. Like, when he killed Loki in the beginning of an Infinity War, that was when you were like, oh, Thanos is a serious guy. Like,
I disagree. I think it was when he beat up Hulk.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
it was.
okay.
I think it was when he beat up Hulk. To me, that was the Thanos is the real deal guy.
Sure. Yeah, we could go with it. It's the same, basically the same moment.
Can I throw out a House of Mark? We haven't done one of these in a while.
Oh, okay. House of Mark.
So we've just been pandering and bantering. Go for it.
Right.
yeah. We've never done one of these.
Need to be off the wall. So we have Kang, we have High Evolutionary, who are key players in probably one of the most slept on series of all time, which is Uncanny Avengers, which hosts the all new, all different Avengers and the X-Men, right? So what if this is finally like what brings the X-Men together? Is we have Kang, we have High Evolutionary, and we finally get that moment. You talked about it with Miss Marvel, like the groundwork has been set. This is the stakes. You have to have mutants. Otherwise, how are you going to deal with this? Because we barely cut it with Thanos by some lucky strike with Scott Lang and a rat. And if Kang is so much more above that, if this is a multiversal threat,
but you're not even playing into Eternals, right? Like, you're talking Eternals, High Evolutionary. That's the concoction for mutants. Like, that's the equation. So yes, absolutely, they have to do it. For me, it just looks like mutants is going to be the afterthought. It looks like there's going to be a couple mutants that come to the forefront, and then we're going to find out down the line that the rest of the mutants were doing something else, or that they weren't ready, or
that's so dumb if they do that.
I don't know. I don't know if I don't think they have time, Jarret. I don't think they have time to get all these major mutants on the board. And I think they can only focus on Deadpool and Wolverine.
I've heard the theory that this phase will have, will introduce some mutants, but then potentially the next phase could be a mutant phase. Like, the next phase will focus on mutants more than this phase.
Are we okay? Are we happy? Just I'm not talking like us as fans, but just us three in the room here right now. Are we happy if at the end of this phase it's literally just Namor and Miss Marvel? Is that enough for us at this point?
It won't be because Deadpool is going to be in it.
Is he technically part of this phase?
I believe so. I could be wrong, Isaac. You can look that up.
As far as I know, he will catch the end of phase 6, I believe, like before Secret Wars drop, because Secret Wars and the sequel or whatever are going to be the last 2 movies in phase 6. They had like 5 or 6 unnamed projects before that, and I've heard them say that Deadpool 3 is going to be one of those projects. So, according to all the speculation, Deadpool 3 should be in phase 3 or phase 6, excuse me. But yeah, who knows? I mean, nothing has been announced at this point, but Deadpool probably will be in there. Would we get a Wolverine recast before that, or are we just going to see Hugh Jackman Wolverine in Secret Wars?
No, Hugh Jackman's there for Secret Wars. They don't have runway to do what you're talking about here, Jarrett. They just don't have the time.
Right.
And they made their bed. They made their bed. They made the decision to go full tilt Secret Wars, here we go. And we're excited about it, don't get me wrong.
Right. Well, and they really had to. They really had to, because after Endgame, so. what are you going to do that is going to get people as hyped as Endgame was?
The people were already stuck. We were already stuck with Marvel. We were already with it. I still to this day, the superhero fatigue argument's hilarious. It's not superhero fatigue, it's information fatigue. We
That's true.
We're fatigued as a people just informationally. People love this stuff. This is the mythology of our culture. That's what it is. And even to hear Tarantino say, like, people don't like actors anymore, they like the heroes that the actors are portraying. I'm like, that's a good thing. That's a very, very good thing. We're past Tom Cruise and that generation where it was about Denzel and all those guys. It's like, not that those actors aren't great, but this is what the movies should be. They should be about the characters. They should not be about the actors.
Right. Past playing those actors in every single movie that is casted. We're past that. We're casting new people that are doing great jobs in the roles that they have.
I don't buy culturally that we didn't have more time. And I'm not mad. I'm not mad that we don't have more time either. I like the plan we got. I think it's fine. I trust Kevin Feige. I've also been significantly more graceful on how Marvel's handled things than other people.
Agreed.
But I don't know, Jarrett, you sound frustrated in different ways than what I hear the general comic book fan saying. And I hear your frustration with the mutant thing. What it says to me is they're not doing Battle World. They're just going to do Secret World's multiverse. And then they save Battle World for later, because that's where you need that. You have to have the X-Men for that, in my opinion.
If you go to
They're
Battle World,
roster.
Yeah, I feel like Battle World is something we earn down the line, and like, it's hard for me to imagine us getting Battle World and then not that being jumped. Like, everybody says that Endgame was jumping the shark. I think Battle World is a stronger case for that. If we got Battle World, I think everything after that would be hard to come back from. But
oh yeah,
because that was where, like, not for nothing, I think a lot of the stuff post Battle World, as far as comics goes, are still great. Read anything Jonathan Hickman X-Men, or Chip Zdarsky, or however you say his name's Daredevil. But a lot of people fell off at Battle World. It was like this cool event, and then they're like, all right, we're done. 616 is over. Like, so I think you're right. I want too much. I'm spoiled by the things that we have gotten, but I like mutants. I've always, like,
and they know know that that's another 20 years of content.
Absolutely.
They know that, and that's why they're going to take their sweet old time. Let Hugh Jackman actually go off in the sunset. Let the old let's do the parade of the old timers. That's what this is about. Let's get the old timers back in one more time. Let's get him back in the saddle again. Can we get Nicolas Cage as Ghost Rider again? Like, that is what this is all about, in my opinion. Right? This is like,
Isaac's manifesting.
This is getting the 35-year-old
positive
guy,
vibes sending to Kevin Feige to get Nick Cage back as Ghost Rider.
It's Eric Bana as Hulk. That's what they're trying to do, whether you like it or not. That's what they're gonna do. They showed this to us already with Spider-Man, and also too, like, the X-Men aren't nearly as important as people make them out to be. I think people are going to be graceful of this process.
I think we need X-Men.
People are, the X-Men are great, but they are not quintessential for the future of this MCU. They're just not.
I just spoke fighting words to Jarrett.
They're great. Don't get me wrong, but
here's a little side detour. We've been talking about X-Men. Let's reel it back here to
Okay. Yes, please.
Skrulls.
Come on, host
and
Isaac. What are
Secret
you doing?
Invasion.
Bring me home.
Secret Invasion is coming out spring 2023. It will be releasing before Guardians of the Galaxy 3. It's the next Marvel project after Ant-Man 3 Quantumania. So there has to be a Skrull in this, right? Like, they have to do something. Post-credit wise is probably going to lead into Secret Invasion, I would assume. Because there's going to be a big payoff. Kang's going to probably kill Scott Lang. That's going to be the big, like, oh, hey, Kang is the guy now. Like, we're looking for him in all of these coming movies and stuff like that. The post-credit scene's not going to be about Kang, not going to be about like any of the main focus of Ant-Man. Is this going to be a Secret Invasion lead-in? Potentially have some Skrulls through this movie.
Jared, I'll give you I just want to say my point. It's really quick, and then you can go. If it's going to be a Secret Invasion lead-in, the death of Scott Lang will result in them discovering he's a Skrull, and that will be the post-credit scene. Go ahead, Jared.
I hate you so much. That's what I was gonna say.
Right?
I was gonna say
that's the only way that works. That's the only way that they do that. Or like Hank Pym is the one that dies, and it's like, where's the real Hank Pym?
Yeah. So I mean, like, that's the thing is, like, in the comics, they find Elektra's body, and it's not Elektra, it's a Skrull. Like, I think Kang just like absolutely works them over. Has this like, and I want it visceral. I want it like, I don't want He Who Remains, right?
Yeah.
The Thinker. I want him to like, I want Jonathan Majors to like punch the crap out of somebody. And as the dust settles, it's a Skrull. And like, cut to credits. You know what I mean? Like, I want it to be that jarring
wild
for us. And then people are like, wait, hold on, what happened? And then I get the phone call from my sisters and my mom, like, explain this to me. I want that leading into Secret Invasion.
That would be intense. I'd be down. I would be absolutely down.
Jared, I think you're onto something though with that Elektra panel. I haven't thought about that panel before in this conversation. That absolutely is happening. It's just a question of who the character is.
Who do they kill?
Right. Yeah.
And it's got to be somebody that we trust, because that's the thing. That's the thing with Elektra.
It's got to be someone everybody loves too.
Yeah.
It's got to be someone everybody loves.
Do people love Hope enough to?
Hope would be a great candidate. Hope would be a candidate, I think.
It's got to be Scott, though. I feel like that's right.
Well, Scott's gonna die, right? Like, very likely that Scott's gonna die. Would that lessen his death if he's a Skrull? It probably would, right? So, like, if he dies and they want it to have the emotional impact that we want it to have, he can't be a Skrull. So somebody else has to be the Skrull.
Yeah, I think maybe it's just not anybody from Ant-Man. Maybe it's just
some random.
Maybe there's some interaction at the end of the movie with Nick Fury, and then the post-credit scene is Nick Fury talking like he's dead. Who? And it's Wong, and then like it's Wong's a Skrull.
One of the big Avengers is a Skrull, and it's like a major plot point. It's Hawkeye.
It was Hawkeye
in the comics.
Because remember, then it was
right.
not Nomad. Ronan. Thank you.
So what if Hawkeye makes like a? I feel like we're getting a little far fetched here, but what if Hawkeye makes a cameo and he gets absolutely just eviscerated, and it's a Skrull? I feel like people aren't as invested in. I'm invested in Clint Barton. I feel like not as many people are left.
I think this Secret Invasion thing has kind of taught me that. My understanding of it now is the TV show will set up the Skrull watch conversation.
Sure.
What we do on this podcast and say this person's a Skrull, realistically, these people probably aren't Skrulls. After this show, that is when the general public will start doing it.
Sure. Go back and watch the
TikToks will pick up. I'm sure there'll be a couple characters in previous things that are Skrulls that we'll find out.
And it's been seeded in, and we never noticed it before.
Sure, and I think people are vigilant in trying to find it, Jarrett. So I think it's what they're going to do moving forward. I think that's what the point of this. But it's like it's another spy thriller. This is I think Secret Invasion is going to be their Winter Soldier of TV shows. I think they're going to totally turn this ship around, because that's when the start of these shows that took place after COVID kicked in. And my theory's always been, anything made during COVID was subpar because of the season of life and the processes that people were having to go through to get things done. the uncertainty of the future. I think there's clarity now to where things can go.
Yeah, I agree.
We're actually going to cut this a little bit shorter because Mandalorian season 3 and we're just not going to get to that stuff. The one thing I want to talk about before we close out this episode is we've been talking about Skrulls since the inception of this podcast. Like literally episode 1, we talked about Endgame. We've been seeing this coming for a long time. Now that we know Secret Wars is this phase, is Secret Invasion going to play majorly into phase 6, or is this just a one-off show that kind of is a side thing in the MCU now? Because it seems like it's been a recurring side quest, if you will. So is this a major plot point of the MCU moving forward after Secret Invasion?
I think to some degree it's the Loki of, like, it's a nice thing to think about for a while, and it's like the big bad for a little bit, but ultimately I think the focus is always like what's going on with Kang. Like, it's a distraction for sure, but at the end of it all,
Right.
what brings us home is Kang.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think we need like a Loki or a Ronan or whatever the smaller villains are that are peppered between. We need an Ultron, right? And I think you have an opportunity to make it whatever the Avengers, threat is currently.
The theme so far too has been no Avengers. Like the Avengers just don't exist. They're a has-been team. They're a Hall of Fame relic. They're a symbol, right? So I think right now, as the Marvel Cinematic Universe stands, if a threat were to occur, I think all these heroes would fly under that banner. I believe Secret Invasion allows them to tear that banner apart. I believe Secret Invasion allows everybody to stay separated and stay scared of each other. It allows the Daredevils to be really, really nervous about helping, right? Like, because the question's always, where's this person? Where's this person? Well, if there's a significant high level of distrust when you're adding all of these different heroes to the pile, I think it's a lot easier to defend. Like, why would Daredevil go help them? He doesn't know if he can trust them.
I think you're onto something too. Like,
Why
one of
would
the best.
Shang-Chi step into that?
Yeah, one of the best parts of Civil War as an event that we didn't touch on at all in the movie is like these splinter factions of like what happens to all the Avengers that are in exile, what happens to the street level Avengers who don't want to register, and all this. And we've never really gotten that other than like a couple scenes in a couple movies. And I think this is the way to, you're talking about it exactly right now. This is the way to drive home that paranoia and say, look, this is why the defenders aren't helping with this or whatever. This is why the champions can't trust the all different Avengers or whatever, because we don't know who's a Skrull, and like these people trust each other, but this camp doesn't know about this camp. Like, what if Captain America's a Skrull? Miss Marvel doesn't know. How would she know? Nova doesn't know. And I think that's a cool way to handle
really
that.
Drives home the point with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
If Sony and Marvel want to keep Spider-Man at arm's length from everybody else to let Sony kind of make their own thing, they can do that now.
Yeah. Build up the
I don't think it's crazy to say, why is everybody doing it after the show? But this show looks so good. I mean, there's just the trailer, it looks tremendous. I mean, I really think I think this next phase is going to clean up all this mess in phase 4. I really am optimistic about it. They got the right villain. They got the right side quests going. I like the lineup. I know a lot of other people don't like the lineup. I like the lineup.
Yeah, I'm with you.
No, they have, and they brought in Emilia Clarke from Game of Thrones. They brought in like some.
She will for sure be a bad guy.
She's the queen. She's got to be the queen.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Oh my gosh, that would be fantastic.
He loves you. She's going to say it. It's going to be the last line of like episode 4 or 5. And it's going to be her killing Talos or something. And it's going to be, it's going to be all over Twitter. Go ahead and book it right now.
Can we say, okay, so I watched Rogue One again with my kids, my students at school.
Great
and
movie.
The fact that like we have Ben Mendelsohn in the MCU, and we've only so far really seen him really in one movie, and obviously like peppered throughout as Nick Fury, in like the extra scenes or whatever. But like, let that dude stride. Let him out, man. He is a phenomenal
agree.
actor.
Let him go. Let him and Samuel L. Jackson do this thing. Don't like the idea that other people from, and I'm sure they'll bring in other properties and other people, go for it. But like, you don't need a ton of Marvel people in this. Let those two be the ones trying to figure it out, and let this movie end with them not knowing who to trust.
Whew. Yeah,
I love
that'd
that.
be
Like,
intense.
I think of the panel, Jared, of Age of Ultron, where Black Widow's hiding in a bunker that Nick Fury built, and it's just pictures of everybody with X's on their face.
Yeah,
That's what I want to see. I want to see a Nick Fury like an Original Sin who just creates so many life model decoys of himself that you don't know where he is. You don't know if he's dead or alive ever. That's what I want. I want that Nick Fury, because right now we got just a too coy of a Nick Fury.
He's
not Nick Fury yet.
just paranoid and like.
No, I need a
always equipped
paranoid
and
guy, and I think
prepared.
that's what this show's gonna do. I
Yeah.
really do. I think we're gonna get the true Nick Fury.
Oh my gosh.
Gosh, I love it.
I did not expect this episode to turn into a reality stone, but here we are.
This is a really strong episode for us.
I love it.
I'm just
And
being
Mark
real.
is going to be sad. He's going to be
I
sad
feel like
that he
Jared
wasn't
and
on
I
this
really
episode.
got a lot of like. I feel like we had some very strong conversation today.
We're just chewing through it.
I feel good about it. I feel good about this
Mark
one. I
it
really
down
do.
in the history books, ladies and
Yeah,
gentlemen.
put this one in the Emmys for sure. I'm telling you, it's because Mark's not here to make it bad.
We got to get
Not
Max
here
on
to
the bubbly
screw it
more
up.
often.
I'm not on the bubbly. Stop it.
What a silly rumor.
Oh my gosh. Well, guys, it has been a blast of an episode. Max, thank you for making your first co-host appearance on the Infinity Bros podcast.
I mean, Isaac, you did a tremendous job. 4 out of 6.
Oh, thank you. Tremendous. 4 out of 6. Oh, all right. That's not the.
That was my impression of Mark. Mark speaking ill of a movie.
Ugh.
Just
At least I
just
got a better score
praise
than the
and then-
Goofy movie
yeah.
in Mark's eyes. So
Yeah, I
that's
really
all-
liked the
that's all I care
movie.
about.
Black Adam was good. The kids sucked. 4 out of 6.
Love that.
Wild. Jarrett, thank you also for being here.
Heck yeah,
I'm glad
man.
you had somebody to call out Max on his bubbly consumption.
Love this. This is great too, because a little peek behind the curtain for everybody else. I wasn't gonna be on. It's Tuesday. It's Tuesday night, but I happen to have free time. You two were chatting it up, and I was like, you know what?
Strange
I have not
things are
been on a
happening.
Max episode in a while. This is one of our best.
I agree. I just feel like I haven't been on in a couple episodes either. So this
Yeah.
has just been really great.
This is just like a good sparring episode between Jared and Max. Really, is what it came.
I
down
don't know.
to
I don't
me,
think
so.
there was much sparring. I think it was more of just like,
I mean, we were honestly like we're all pretty much
What
on the
about
same
this?
page
Yeah,
on most things.
but what about
honestly.
this? Yeah, but what about
Yeah.
this? Right? Like I think that's what it was. It felt more
How-
like that to me.
Like wait a minute. We're agreeing on things in the.
I
Infinity
think there
Bros
was a lot of
podcast?
agreement.
What kind
We're
of, what kind of
agreement. I
podcast
agree.
Agreement.
is this? What are we running
Agreeing?
here?
We're agreeing.
Well, if you're interested in more, you can check out the Infinity Bros at theinfinitybros.com. You can check out our Discord to get in on the discussion on everything that's happening, MCU, Star Wars, video games, whatever you guys are into right now. You can check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, whatever else we're on. A lot of different things. Robbie's doing great things over at the YouTube for the Infinity Bros. So make sure you go check out our videos. He cuts up segments, puts it all on there for your enjoyment. But
We're on Hive. Remember the 5 minutes that everybody
yeah,
was excited
we're on
about
Hive. How about
We're
that?
on it.
It's
we
there.
post, nothing happens, but like nobody's on
It's
Hive,
there.
but we're there.
Yeah, everybody got scared for that like split like 3 seconds. And
Oh, I
then
for sure was
joined
one of
Hive.
those people who was
Yeah.
scared. I was totally buying the
And you
hype.
created
Yeah.
an account, and now you forgot your login and deleted the app off your phone already.
Right.
Is that how it went?
Yeah, Twitter wasn't going anywhere. I mean, it's kind of crazy to me. And no, we're not going to talk about it.
We did not have the half hour. that
Max
it'll
wants to
take talk
keep
about
talking.
this.
He wants to keep talking.
No,
But-
I want to go to bed. I can't.
However you're listening, I already screwed it up. Wherever you're listening, however you're listening, thank you for making us a part of your podcast experience. We love you, 3000. Have an amazing night. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Infinity Bros podcast. You can find the Infinity Bros on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at the Infinity Bros. Feel free to send listener feedback via email at infinitybrospodcast@gmail.com.